Hey, wait.
Oh,
Not
God.
okay here. That joke's not okay.
We didn't get the joke, but we got the reaction. Hello and welcome to the MegaMonsterCast. Today
all
we are.
about Anne Hathaway.
And now you know where this falls in recording. Today we are talking about Ultraman Arc Episode 5. For people wondering why that's funny, just wait a few weeks. Today we're talking.
Record these out of order, by the way.
Yep. I mean, they'll be able to tell because none of us changed clothes. Last time I at least changed a shirt, so it kind of throws things off.
You know,
Oh, shit.
if I was at home, we'd just be doing wardrobe over here.
Yeah. So today we're talking about episode 5 of Ultraman Arc. I am Nick. With me are Alex and Josh.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
That was also a callback to another episode.
I'm so happy.
A call forward, in fact. But yeah.
Call forward. Call sideways.
Yep. So we are going to be talking about this episode. Starting this off, I'd say mixed bag of an episode.
Yeah.
Better than the last one. Not as good as the first three.
For those of you following the continuity of our clothing, apparently, this is the weakest episode, I think, of the bunch we record on our record days. This one was
6 we did today.
Yeah,
I just stabbed myself.
Love it.
There's definitely some highlights that I liked about this, but we'll get to it. But I think it did itself a disservice in the climax.
Yeah, I agree with that. So our episode starts with a little bit of a news feed. We find out that a kaiju fossil has been found at a construction site, and it was found by the dinosaur professor, as he is known. I actually really like this character. I think he's kind of fun.
Alan Grant?
I did too. I hope he sticks around and becomes a member of the skip.
I hope this turns out better than the other professor that Josh and I have watched interact with people from their past in an Ultraman show.
Yup.
That guy summoned one of our top 3 kaiju from that season. Ultraman Blaze Art was fucking fantastic.
Go watch it.
But yeah.
So Dr. Alan Grant here.
Yep.
Okay. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I like the guy, but come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is Dr. Alan Grant from JP3. Where he has a talking velociraptor.
So
he doesn't have it. He just experiences it.
So,
I gotta say here where we find the kaiju the fossil. Again, with this show, I think one of my absolute favorite parts of this show is the model work. I just love every bit of it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, the scene here where he starts to flood it
was great. I love that.
It's 100% of them just pouring buckets. It's great.
Yep.
It looked more like just cups of water, but I still loved it.
I mean, hey, it worked.
It did.
Yep. But yeah,
it's a storytelling device, and I think they pull it off well. And I appreciate the fact that it's all practical.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll see how well some of the practical choices they made over the course of the episode worked out, but whatever.
Not always.
Yep.
Not always.
But yeah, so we get a little bit of a background on this area, that at one point this area used to be under the ocean, which I think is kind of a fun little callback to just prehistoric times in general. I know I live in an area that at one point of time, a very long time ago, was underwater. So that's kind of a fun little...
We all do. The inland sea covered all of Texas, Nebraska, most of
now they know
where I-35 exists now.
Yep.
It was one of the more shallow seaways in history, but it housed some of the more scary monsters that ever did roam the seas. So this very much harkens back to the actual kaiju that roamed the earth,
Yep.
like megalodons, super croc, like all that kind of shit. You know,
That shark with the shawl like blade.
Yeah, so that was actually something I was going to bring up. Alex, I think this episode deals with the science a lot better than the last episode did.
mm-hmm.
Although, again, we're gonna talk about this in an episode that comes out later, but was recorded earlier. We did find out that, in fact, some bacteria do feed on electricity, and that we can feed on it too.
Yes. So the
Oh my god.
we did not find out that last bit. That is not quite true. The bacteria.
Oh,
Just
I
wait.
put in a fork and an outlet in a minute, and I don't try it.
Do it.
Do not try what you're about to see at home.
Yep.
But yeah, that's right. So they're really playing with a lot of science in their premises, and I really enjoy that. How they choose to spin off with it is a little hit or miss, but I really appreciate the basis. I think they might be going for that same thing that Ginja was going for, or no, it was Taro, wasn't it?
We haven't watched Tara. I think you're Tiga, maybe.
No, Tiga.
Yeah, Tiga.
Yeah. So like I think they're going for something like that. It's very well grounded, very historically accurate. Like this one really piqued my interest, being really based in geology. Like I said, like it's based off of basically the interior or the western interior seaway that existed here. I'm not sure. I'm not as knowledgeable about the geological history of Japan as I am of America, but it was very apropos that they chose the kaiju to be a member of the the Cetacean clade, which involves whales, dolphins, and other mammals of that type. So it was very. It all tied itself really well. So like I feel like the science in this episode was my highlight for it. I think the narrative honestly paled in comparison.
See, I liked my highlight. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I also really appreciated the science in this, but I think there's like a couple of beats in the episode that I really appreciated in terms of like some character development for one of our characters. But yeah, so then we get the water rising. The kaiju has caused water to rise. We'll find out how that works later. And
for some reason, our main character tries to taste it.
Oh yeah, no, I actually appreciated that too. Like I appreciate like that little Yuma moment. Don't get me wrong; it makes me think Yuma's like dumber than he should be, considering he's a member of this team because he's intelligent. But whatever.
Well, it did it not harken back to the idea of sticking a knife into a bag of white powder and tasting, going, that's pure cocaine. Like,
yeah, but they
first off, why do you know
that?
No, he sticks his finger in the water, tastes it. Shit, that's cocaine.
He immediately gets reprimanded for doing so, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that was pretty good. We also find out that while we have seen there's a kaiju there, no one else has seen there's a kaiju. Like, no one in this episode so far knows there's a kaiju present. This is a weird phenomenon.
They know of the kaiju fossil.
Yes. But
we don't know that there's a kaiju at this point yet.
We as viewers do because we see it.
Yeah.
Earlier before the water rises.
Oh.
We see it in the dark before the water rises, but there's none of the characters in this episode have seen the kaiju yet. That this is a weird phenomenon, and they're not really sure if this is in their purview. But
God, I thought we just saw the explosions in the water filling. I didn't know we actually saw the kaiju.
I'm pretty sure we see its eyes. I could be wrong.
God, I just thought we saw the fossil.
I mean, maybe, but I could have sworn we saw its eyes like right before the water starts filling in.
No, doesn't look like it.
No.
I mean, we do see it in the previews, so.
I mean, that's fair. We as viewers also know that we're watching a show that requires this to show up.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
But yeah. So we also get the professor interacting with our members of Skip, and we find out that Bon, the head of Skip, was, I believe, this professor's student at one point. Correct?
That's how I took it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might be, apart from Shu, I think he's my favorite. He might even be my favorite character above Shu. I really love Shu though.
I think it depends on the episode how they play him.
Yeah. The more we talk about coffee, the more I like Shu.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say Peabody doesn't mean nothing to you?
Peabody wasn't even in this episode, I don't think.
No, Peabody was literally the inciting incident. Remember, U-Bot is the reason why the fucking kaiju woke up.
Yeah, but
Like,
Peabody's not doing anything.
Peabody is a vessel.
Peabody has its own sentience.
It's a vessel.
Peabody has its own sentience, and I'm really curious how that works. Does he just sleep?
Once they dock, they just merge into one.
Yeah, like, and does that mean
fusion?
Do they cease to exist as individuals, and like they're a collective consciousness, and then when they separate, it's like basically having your arm torn off?
Well, there's so many different ways of doing this. Like, you could do the Megazord version where everybody's an independent entity. You could do the fusion Patara dance, or the fusion dance, and then you do cease to be individuals.
I think that's what happens.
I also don't think they're ever going to properly address this, and I'm just going to have questions for the rest of my life.
I'm going to go to my grave wondering about U-Bot.
Yep.
The day you die, they actually
Peabody's going to show up.
They tell us how it's done.
Yeah, Peabody's going to show up 50 years from now in an Ultraman show. Actually, it's like I die anytime U-Bot attaches himself to me.
I literally die, and every time I come back, I'm a different person.
Yep.
No, it's it's going to be something horribly Lovecraftian.
Yep.
So, let me ask you this, since we're
go into a void
of what is it, UP?
Mm-hmm.
Does UP add to the show at all? Does UP
no.
UP. So they always like to have a robot or an alien kind of attached to the defense force. Not always, but in some way,
name 3 that I've seen.
3 that you've seen now.
Name three Ultraman series that I've seen that require an alien or bot.
The second season of Ginga.
Excluding this one.
The second season of Ginga.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, but
yeah,
I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one.
I mean, if you really want to get
for one episode.
Yeah. Because they do get Earthy. Earthy gains consciousness.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about Earthy.
Earthy?
I'm talking about the killer lady bee.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
So 2 there.
Yeah. I mean, I can list off plenty that you haven't.
As common as you're making it out to be.
I can list off plenty that you haven't. There's the alien Gormon in X. When we get to Jeed, there's Pagu. Pagu's fun. I like Pagu a lot.
Okay, so follow-up question.
Yes.
Do those companions make up greater narrative significance?
Yes, almost always. Almost
Let
always.
The cat eat you.
They almost always have at least some sort of they're likable, or they add something to the plot at some point. The Gormon in X is the head scientist, so he's the one that pushes invention in that series.
Are
Pagu.
they always silly?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, Gormon looks dope. I love Gormon's design.
I'm not really digging UP at this
point.
Yeah,
no, I still don't like UP. I think UP's one of the weakest examples of this in one of the Ultra series that I've watched. I don't like his character very much.
I think it honestly, takes the show, like it moves the show's target audience all on its own.
Yep.
Like,
well, it's
this show
totally
could
designed to
very
sell
much
toys.
easily be something, without changing any other lines than working around UP. I don't think this would be out of context with the usual tone of any of the Ultraman series that you've had me watch yet.
Yeah.
I feel like the addition of UP is clearly either like an avenue to sell toys, which I think is a kind of not the avenue they're going for, or just to make it more accessible to a younger audience.
Yeah, I would make. So I think I've talked with both of you about this. I feel like this is one of the Ultra shows that is aiming the youngest that I've seen in a while. I think before this was Rube, but I don't even think Rube aimed this young.
I just want to hear like a Rube.
Dude, I will say, if we get to Rube at some point, you're gonna fucking love the villain in Rube. Rube's villain is like top tier comedy, and I love him to death. I've been rewatching Rube in my spare time, and I'm like, God, he's such a good character. Anyway, though, we got to get back on this one.
Well, I just gotta say, Josh, were you trying to tell me that Spiro Agnew is in Ultraman Rube?
He is.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that more than I thought I would.
That would be our Anne Hathaway joke.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
First of all, Anne
It's
Hathaway.
not funny because it's not a joke.
Yeah. Many people died because of Anne Hathaway.
Dude.
Anne Hathaway is a monster. She destroyed Soul.
Context.
Then she killed clearly innocent, but definitely not an innocent man. She threw him through the air.
Anne, it was Gloria.
Anne Hathaway made the decision to be in that movie.
Yeah, it's true. So did Jason.
The only thing that would make this joke even worse if she had like a history like Matthew Broderick where she actually killed a person.
Dude, if she had a history of really killing a person, we would have laid into it so much harder. We would have immediately leaned on that part too.
And I would not be defending.
Yeah.
So the true monster of Godzilla 99 was Matthew Broderick.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. So anyway, we find out obviously that when Yuma tastes the water, that the water is salt water, and
there's so many safer ways to figure that out.
Yeah. But now we know it's not a lake; it's an ocean. Even though it's still a lake, it's just a saltwater lake.
I mean, I literally, you took the words out of my mouth. I have like at least 3 sentences of this. Just like, there's so many. Like, do you not understand the idea that salt does not an ocean make?
I actually don't know if there are any saltwater lakes in Japan, though. I'm going to say that. Like, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on this.
On Earth.
Yeah.
Like, they're aware of Earth, right?
Yeah. Again, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on making this weird choice.
The only like literally this didn't have to be an issue if he was like, it's not quite any lake that you're used to seeing, it's more ocean like, instead of saying it is an ocean. Like, you do know the existence of sea.
No, it's
right?
part of the ocean.
Yes, it's the ocean.
He called it an ocean to itself.
Yeah, it's a mini ocean.
It's not. That's called that. There's other words for that, like sea, like lake,
or ocean.
It's a big one.
So, we get U-Bot's main contribution to the episode, where U-Bot is sent into the ocean lake, and it scats around. U-Bot is just a plot device. I am gonna openly say U-Bot serves its only purpose is to fix problems they made, so U-Bot can be there. U-Bot put out that UP put out that fire last episode because they put the fire there for UP to put out. UP is just there to fix problems that they make so UP can be relevant.
It's so they can sell U-bot fire extinguishers.
You know what? If they actually sell that, good for them. Yeah, so then we get a time skip to, I think it's a week later, right?
A time skip?
Yes. Awful. Yes.
1 week later, yes.
Yep. And we get like some interviews of people that this is all like, this is stressing them out. This is bullshit. People are going to have to start moving.
Are you proud of that joke? Anne Hathaway would be disappointed in you right now.
Oh, now I know you're serious. No, none of this. I was just pointing out a product of circumstance, and you had to make it all mean.
So yes, we also find out that this water came from an aquifer and that it is mixing with salt to make the salt water.
An ocean.
Yes.
Actually, this would be considering that they show a gradient chart.
Mm-hmm.
This would be considered brackish water. That is exceedingly different than the composition of what would be considered ocean water. They're literally fighting against their own statements.
Yep. So.
Yeah, but science.
Yuma wonders if there's a burrowing kaiju that could have caused this, and immediately is like, no, that's probably not the case. And
oh, you're stupid. Shut up.
Yep. And Bond brings up that there's a 99% chance at this point that it is not in their purview and they should not be working on this project. Like, nothing has led them to believe that a kaiju is causing this at this point, and they've been working on it for a week without any proof that a kaiju did this.
What else would cause this?
We, the audience, know
magnets.
We're watching a kaiju show, but at the same time, like, this is some government budget shit right here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
They have seen monsters come from the sky and produce, like, acid tears.
Not in this.
I feel like you've never watched X-Files back to back to back. Like,
no, because
Scully is introduced to aliens every single episode and then returns to being a complete denier the next episode.
That's because they got Flash with a little pin thing and he forgets.
Yeah.
Oh, X-Files is in the MIB universe.
Yeah. And they just keep fucking up this guy who would benefit more from knowing that aliens are real.
Yeah, he definitely has a tumor in his head now.
No, that's the answer, is he just has a tumor. He has a brain tumor and no one's bothered to try to help him. And that's how the X-Files works. All right, so we get people will start moving out by 10 p.m. At 10 p.m. if they can't fix the problem. So now we've got a fire lit under them. And then we get a nice kind of fun, like, this is one of my favorite scenes in the episode, where it's just Bond and the professor talking. Like, this is what I consider to be the highlight for the episode, where it's just these two characters talking, and like, this is a really good character development section for Bond. Like, I feel like they wanted to kind of do this with Rin last episode, and they just couldn't quite land it like they're landing it with him.
Yeah.
But they talk about, like,
I thought this came off really well.
Yep. They talk about, like, that Bond gave the professor this fossil from, like, a part that may have been, like, part of a kaiju. And after K-Day, Bond joined Skip. And he would have been, like, this amazing researcher, but he's doing this other work that's really important too. Like, just, like, it's such a good episode for establishing who Bond is, why Skip is important for him, and I don't know, it does such a really good job of setting up who he is as a character, and I love that.
Yeah, gave all of his motivations, and yeah, just made him a more central character, I think.
Yep. Then we get the scene where they're all the members of Skip and the professor are sitting there. They're eating together. They're drinking. And they look at the fossil, and the fossil has salt on it now.
Did it not have salt in the beginning?
It might have at the beginning, but
I think he pours so much salt on this fucking boiled egg.
Yeah, that's too much salt. But yeah, so they come up with the idea that what if
also who thinks that coffee can't go with anything other than boiled eggs? Shu lost a lot of points in my head there.
I feel like Shu would have just said anything to connect coffee to what they were doing.
Because Shu is an alien.
He's overcommitted.
I feel like that's going to be like a big part of Shu's character is he's just dead set on connecting anything he does in life to coffee.
Because he's an alien, and the first thing he ever discovered was coffee.
That's like a non-zero chance.
I do number 9. We are not sure.
It is a non-zero chance that he is in fact an alien.
Chance, thank you.
It's a non-zero chance.
He's gonna come running up to save the day and just transforms.
Yep.
Is that my head?
So we find out that they come up with the idea that maybe the kaiju is the one causing the salt, and because of like maybe it's the same kaiju species. Maybe it was dormant and it's woken up and it's causing all these changes to the environment. That maybe
this whole time that U-Bot is underwater still.
Yes, I think they left U-Bot there for a week. I genuinely believe that. I believe that they left U-Bot there.
And they didn't say to U-Bot go towards the concentration of the gradient.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a salt gradient.
Yeah, 100%.
It's literally like the scene from Kong. I was like, okay, you
can
get us now.
So they go to the lake.
Throw us off!
They go to the lake. They have 30 minutes left before people start moving, which why is it specifically? Why does it have to be 10? That's my question, but
everybody's
whatever.
Everybody's packed and they're ready to go. Like, yep. Come on.
Yep, they're just waiting for 10 to hit.
We are doing this in protest, but we are organized.
Mm-hmm. So they have U-Bot go and check the highest concentration zone for the first time in a week, and it gets to the point.
When they're having this final discussion, U-Bot is in the room, so they send him back.
Okay, I think it would have been funnier if he wasn't there.
I would have laughed my ass off, but I think I would have remembered that damn tongue.
Yep, that's fair.
We just come back to U-Bot, and he's just like floating lifeless in the water.
That would have been such a dark moment for a show they're clearly aiming at a young audience, but I would have loved it.
And U-Bot's dead.
But yeah, so they send him down as he gets to the highest concentration zone. He says he starts to feel light because it is 35% salt in this area. And then an eye opens,
which is literally insane.
Yep.
They do like this scene of how they do the eye movement.
Also,
yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yep. I love that. Side note, if they drain this lake, nothing will ever grow there again.
Oh, and the fact that they talk about it's getting into the groundwater and affecting the areas around it's too late.
Yeah, no, everyone has to move away after this, regardless.
If you literally like that, the entire ground has now you can't desalinate it enough to be able to grow anything anymore.
Yeah, this is a wasteland.
The land is now ruined for eons.
Yeah, this is a wasteland now.
Yeah.
This is going to be like a Mad Max area. Like, there's going to just be like rogue biker gangs and shit. Like, this monster has done more damage than any other monster so far. But yeah, so we get the fight. I liked the concept of an underwater fight. I think the execution was severely lacking.
Yeah, the execution was extremely lacking. I mean, like I said before we started recording, Pacific Rim proved that you could do an underwater scene well.
Yeah.
The entire climax of Pacific Rim takes place underwater. And they're able to give you the feeling of it being murky and hard to see distance-wise, while showing that the subjects that we, the audience, care about are clearly visible. Did that take away from the realism of them being underwater as massive annihilating mechs? No, it did not. Did they need to show the murkiness in Ultraman as, like, I can only see a portion of Ultraman for the entirety of the episode? Like,
I was gonna say, fun fact, a show that I'm not a super big fan of, Ultraman Trigger, also has underwater scenes that are done better than this.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
so,
Trigger.
Like, there's not only just precedent in cinema, there's precedent within the overarching series of Ultraman that you could take directorial advice from.
Yeah, the 2021 series had an underwater fight I consider to be better than this, where you could see what the action was. Yeah, this was a weird choice. There were some cool ideas in this, like that propeller thing that it did. I thought that was really cool. Where he took his barrier, cut it up into thirds, and then strapped it onto the slasher and used it as a propeller. I thought that was dope. I wish I could have seen it better.
I was honestly a little disappointed that he didn't just hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of wanted him to just hold on to it and push the murkiness away.
Pull himself through.
Or use it as a propeller.
Yeah.
And use it to do like a mega punch or something. Like I love the concept. Again, I thought the execution fell flat. It could have been more.
Yep, this is a kind of wasted potential episode. But yeah, I also thought like firing the beam into the monster's mouth was kind of cool too.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it always the mouth?
It's a weak point.
Yeah. What's weaker than anything but inside the body? Blow out his guts.
Yeah. Blow its back out.
Blow his back out.
I do want to point out, I've been sitting here doing some research. They said that the new lake, new ocean, at its most at its highest salinity value was 35%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dead Sea is 33.7.
So
one of the
there's a chance.
Lake, and that's a salt lake, by the way.
Yep.
Salt ocean?
No. It's 33.7. The highest salt content body of water on Earth that I can find is the Don Juan Pond, which is a salt lake in Antarctica, and it is 44%. So, like, we're like the if you go to the Great Salt Lake here in America, which is anywhere from 5 to 27%, you can float without swimming at all on that lake.
I still find a way to sink.
So it was kind of nice that they brought in that like buoyancy aspect to when U-Bot was in there, but like that would be an incredible level of salt.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is again, this area is just a wasteland now.
Yeah, the average ocean, like the Atlantic and Pacific, weigh in at 3.5% salinity by volume.
Yeah, so
an order of magnitude more salt.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, our episode ends on after the kaiju's been destroyed. The rest of the skip team goes back to Bon, and they see Bon and the professor talking about like the kaiju, like, oh, maybe it secretes salt in order to create its own like environment, an environment that it would be able to live in. And they're talking about its physiology and nerding out with each other over. Yep. Again, really great little character beat that I love, that these two are like, oh, now that the problem's over, let's just talk about why this happened and how cool this was.
I respect it.
Yep. Um,
And all the time they're giving Yuma shit for having fallen in the lake.
I'm sorry, it was too salty. I couldn't swim back.
hopefully you didn't get any in your eye.
Like,
You're blind.
I love the fact they're like, oh yeah, the salt levels are already dropping. How?
Where's it going?
It's just settling on the bottom.
And if it's and literally if there's enough salt for it to spontaneously precipitate out of solution, that's an oversaturated solution.
Mm-hmm.
That water is now fucking salty for the rest of the time.
About how much of a dick he is to the monster when he shoves the tree in. He just starts laughing in his face.
Yeah, literally, they take a moment for him to be like,
he does the arm thing too. He's like, aha.
Yeah, like, look what I've done to you. I have shoved a tree in your nose.
Yep. Again,
I literally was like, why is it an underwater tree? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The ecosystem's been destroyed. That's why.
By the way, it is still
there would not be
perfectly
leaves
preserved. Yeah.
Just saying, a week in salt water, that tree is dead and has shed everything.
Yep.
It craves salt.
It is now a pseudo-wudo kaiju itself.
Yep. No, we gave it electrolytes. It's what plants crave.
It's the it's the electricity eating bacteria have now infused themselves into the tree bark.
Yes. Again, I'm gonna say this definitely not as good as the first 3 episodes. Better than episode 4 though.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Still has its problems, but I think okay.
I think what it's really missing is a juggler.
Honestly, that's no like for
that's who Sue is.
For real, I've been thinking about this a lot the last few days.
I said that only as a partial joke.
No, like I've been thinking about this a lot the last few days. I think what this show kind of needs, and I think we're gonna get this eventually, is it needs like a central antagonist. That it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine to have like a few episodes in the start without an antagonist, but like a show that I've talked about in reference to the show a bunch is Ultraman X. And I love that show, but it has this very big glaring problem where it doesn't get a central antagonist until the last like 2 episodes.
Do all Ultramen get a central antagonist? Is that always a thing, or
not necessarily? There's usually like some sort of antagonistic force. So like
like there's got to be some overarching narrative to a sense, right? Even if it's gonna go with the monster of the week formula.
Yeah, and like the ones that don't have something going on in that route, I feel like are the weaker entries in the franchise. Like, I mean, like the Showa era, you didn't really have like a big central antagonist because that was back when just Monster of the Week worked, and you didn't need to because they were like playing with a bunch of different concepts and they were just seeing what stuck. But like after a certain point you kind of need to have like something that the hero is working against and is working against the hero. Again, like I love a lot of what Ultraman X, a show that I talk about a lot in reference to this show, did, but Grieza, the main villain, doesn't show up until the last like 2 episodes of the series and isn't really even like set up. Like we get like a tiny bit of it.
It would have been so much better just having not seen Ultraman X. I feel like it would have been so much better executed if you had done literally no changes to what you just described, except for you introduced them in like the 2nd episode of the season and then never talk about them again.
Well,
then to come back the last two episodes, like that would leave you with the whole like, oh well, were they behind the scenes the whole time?
And see, that's what it kind of did. Like you get this little hint, because there's something that caused X to come to Earth, that it was in conflict with something, but X never talks about it for the entire run until we get to those last 2, and then suddenly he's like, oh, that's Grieza, that's this creature that I was fighting. That's why I'm here. That's why, like,
That feels
was
like a
injured.
shoehorn more than it being written.
Oh, 100%. I think at some point they realized, like, they were doing, I think they wanted to do like a really classic, just Monster of the Week focus thing. And then they got to the last few episodes in the writer's room and are like, hey, what do we do to end the series? And they just kind of like, I
Big
mean,
bad.
he was fighting this ball of light at the start. Why don't we set up what that was? And they just kind of like pulled it out of their ass at the end to have some sort of climax. But it didn't, it's not as earned. Like, I get the feeling, and this is me like throwing this out there because I feel like this is what it's going to be. Yeah, the monogelos and the monogelos and the digelos, the space kaiju beetle monsters. I think those are somehow related to what will eventually be our primary antagonist. I think it's going to be like some sort of space-related antagonist. I just I don't know how they're going to do that yet, and I'm hoping it's established sooner rather than later, because if they take too long on it, it's going to face the same problem where it's not going to feel earned.
Do we have a definitive episode count for Arc?
There's not. You don't usually get a definitive episode count. Outside of clip show episodes, there'll probably be like 24 to 26 main episodes, and then we'll get like 2 to 4 clip show episodes.
Oh
What is a
god,
clip
I
show?
just realized our clip show episodes is just gonna be Peabody.
Oh, 100%. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be.
What is a clip show, and why do I already hate it?
It's so in order to
Don't do
save
that.
money, in order to save money on production, and in order to like
don't think
pad
I'll
out
get back
episodes,
Oh,
what they do is they take an episode where it's like, hey, let's talk about all the things that we've done so far this season. Like, probably around episode 8 or 9, we're going to get a clip show episode where it's like, hey, let's have UP and Peabody separate and talk to each other about the different things that Skip has done so far.
Oh, it's a recap episode, or like The Talking Dead.
Yep. Well, a little bit of both. If it's done well, like Blazar had 4 clip show episodes. A good clip show episode, they'll work in like plot elements for what's coming up too.
You really, okay, if you're gonna make a clip show episode, you really have to consider who you're aiming the audience at. So are you aiming it at people who have not watched any of this and are getting onboarded now mid-season? I think that's less likely. So you'd want to make a clip show as a recap for people who are watching it, maybe on a casual level, but you also want it to be worthwhile for people to watch that have been watching it adamantly, so that they get something new out of the episode. If it's just a recap episode, fuck that.
Yeah, and usually for that, so Blazar had 4. We had like one episode that was really good on that because it introduced like some plot points that we used moving forward. Then we had like one that was like really middling, where it was just like them talking about things that had happened. And then we had Pag, and Pag is what I'm worried we're going to get.
they ruined my favorite monster.
Yeah, it was a rough couple of episodes.
They put poo on his head.
They did. They did put poo on his head. Yeah, no, Pag was... I don't really know what they were thinking with that, because Blazar was aimed a little older, and Pag was like... The Pag episodes were aimed crazy young compared to the tone of the rest of that show. Like, I still think those are like huge, glaringly mishandled episodes. But yeah, I'm worried.
They're already on episode 5 of Arc, and we have no narrative.
Yeah.
It is very much Monster of the Week. Let's just get to know our Skip team.
Yep. And they can do it as just Monster of the Week. That's like, if so far it's been fine.
But they ought to just do that instead of like what you say about X. Like, I don't want them to do neither.
Mm-hmm.
Or by that I mean both.
Yeah. You don't want it to suddenly we have an antagonist at the end.
No, because like I'd rather watch you actually develop the antagonist and make it meaningful that we defeat them. Otherwise, I think it's more meaningful that we do a monster of the week and you're just a protector. And the narrative, the overarching antagonism is trying to keep your secret. And you could make the antagonist part of the human side of the story. It doesn't have to be the super side of the story, the Ultraman side of the story, but don't do neither or both without executing. Like, just if you're gonna make a monster of the week, lean into him being the weekly protector. I think that would work really well. I would really enjoy seeing that. I also really like that Orb has Juggler.
Mhm.
I like wondering how that conflict is going to resolve, and that it's not just cut and dry. You don't know. I don't at least know all of Juggler's motivations. I don't know the backstory between the two of them. I don't read the manga like some of us here.
I mean, I'll say this straight up. Like, there are a large portion. Like, again, people who maybe are watching this but not watching our Orb recaps, which is a shocker if that exists.
Why are you not doing that?
Yeah.
Come join us over there. We're fun.
Yeah, but there's the big thing about Orb is we start basically in chapter 6 of Guy and Juggler's story. And we're they're already established in their universe, and their relationship is already established by the time we get to them.
Was the Ultraman Orb that we're watching the first to be written?
Yeah. So the way I had it explained to me was they had a general story Bible of this is everything that's happening in their universe up to this point. We're on chapter 6 of 10 chapters for their story.
Right. My point in asking that is to say that if this was the first Ultraman Orb written, you can't make the argument that, well, Ultraman Orb was established, they kind of knew what they were going for, they kind of had an idea of the story. Like, no, this was their first debut. This is Ark's first debut.
Mm-hmm.
I think Orb is doing it a little better if they're going for a similar tone.
I'd also say they're not. Again, there's other series I think go for something closer to this. I think just based off of stuff.
I think Orb is disconnected. I just happen to have Orb in the mind.
No, I get you. Considering we had like an amazing episode of Orb this week, I definitely get it.
We did.
But yeah, I don't know. I would say like going forward, because at this point we're probably about a fifth of the way through the show. If they're going to establish a villain, they need to establish them in the next like 2 episodes.
I would think so.
And if they don't, they really need to just avoid establishing a villain altogether.
Yeah, I mean, because even in Blazer, we got the V99 by this point.
I mean, the only other way that could work and them establish a villain late in the season is to set up the second season, and I really don't like that play.
I also think it's very unlikely this will get a second season. Like, I like what we've seen so far for the most part. The only time,
but even you said just yesterday that that they're reaching a wider audience than maybe has ever been reached before. They might have a better reception enough to get a second season. Under other circumstances, I think you'd be completely correct, but the audience might be wide enough for this.
And see, so what I'll say is I don't think it should get like a second season, next year we get a different Ultraman.
I am talking about kind of American terms, aren't I?
What I'm saying is Orb was super popular, like super, super popular. So Orb got a mini series that was the first chapter of Orb's saga. And Orb has a movie, which most Ultra series get a movie. And Orb had kind of like a little mini series, which was a later chapter. So we get a chapter after his series too. And we get like him showing up in another character's movie, and then we get him showing up in like a bunch of other things here and there. And I think that would work for Arc, but I don't want like, oh, and we're going to give Arc another 25 episodes.
I guess if it was like a 12 episode run, that would make more sense the way that I'm framing it.
Mhm.
But
Which is what happened with Ginga. Ginga had 12 episodes. Then next year they got another 12 episodes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that has a fundamentally different feel.
Yep. Oh yeah. Any other final thoughts before we close this one up?
Yeah, I've already made the joke.
Yeah. All right.
I think it was good. It's like you said, it's not as good as 1 through 3, but better than episode 4.
Yeah.
I liked it for the character development. We've had a lot of character development this week, so
Yep. Tune in next time where we're
Don't film anything so dark.
yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
yeah. Can we? Yeah, I want to see the fight scenes. I want to see the model work. Like, don't hide your work behind filters.
Yeah.
I
Best way
really
to
like
hide
this stuff.
bad
Show
CG.
me it.
Which this episode didn't even have bad CG. It just hid a suit that existed.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I think that's the thing that I keep coming back to about Arc that I really like is that it's practical, it's miniatures, but this episode was not directed or filmed correctly, or
Yeah.
something about it. I'm not the film critic that I would like to be in this moment, but like they hid the action when they didn't need to.
Yes.
It didn't need to be dark green water. It could have been light blue. And then you use dust effects. Like, I mean, use CG where it's appropriate. Go for it. Like,
Yep, I agree.
just show me what's happening.
Yep. I agree.
We could, but no.
So anyway, tune in next
We'll see
time.
what episode 6 holds out for us.
Yeah. Tune in next time where we see a monster that we've already seen once this season.
God.
Anne Hathaway,
Still to her.
you're a
No!
monster.
No!
Yeah. Screw you, Anne Hathaway.
No!